Hey, welcome to blowing snow for fun. And summertime 2023, beginning of August, and just starting to work on my machines and get them ready for this coming winter. So I'm up north at my cabin, and I've done some work creating the assembly for an LED light on my old 1980s Simplicity Snowaway 8-horse with a Tecumseh Snow King engine on it. And I just wanted to share this with you. It's not super easy. It's going to require a little bit of work on your part if you want to do this. This machine came with no headlight on it. A small plastic clip. It's laying here someplace that I cut off. And that plastic clip came off of the coil, and this machine generated enough electricity to run a light. Now, that light did not come as standard equipment, and it's no longer available. So, and I wanted to add an LED light because I like the LED light so much on my errands. So what I did was I ordered a set of LED lights. I'm going to do the same thing on my son-in-law's snowblower, help him. And this is the brand right here. Got them off of Amazon. I got two of them for, I think it was $18. Nightlight is the brand name. And here is the code. So if you wanted to order something very similar, you could do so. Now, the wiring itself requires a ground on the engine of the snowblower, and tapping into the wire for the light that was optional when the machine was built. If you don't have that wire coming off your machine, it comes off right around where the electric start sits, and you'll see it. It's got a white cap on it that sits about that long. And if I spot that white cap while I'm moving stuff around here, I'll show you what it looks like. But I'm not seeing it offhand. I'm laying here in my driveway. So the light itself, I don't have a switch on it. It runs continuously when the machine is, after the machine is started. I haven't run it at night yet. I'll try to get a picture of it at night, but it is heck when I'm blowing snow up in my place up north. There's no lights at all in the driveway at night. I'm way away from the cabin. I wear a headlamp. I've got a magnetic light that I stick on the machine, and it works great, you know, until it runs out of juice. When I'm out there and it's 15, 20 below zero, you know, and I'm out there for 2-3 hours at a time. So far, at least the ones that I've had haven't held up very well as far as longevity of charge goes. So basically what happens is the positive and the negative off the snowblower, and the negative is just any bolt basically that you want to hook it to. So you need a positive and a negative. Then more amperage comes off of this thing, more electricity than is required for an LED light. If you don't put anything between the LED light and that wire, it's going to burn your LED light out. So I watched a couple of videos online, one by Donnie Boy, who's one of my hats off to Donnie Boy, does a great job with his channel. And then several others where guys have built and worked on LED lights on snowblowers and lawnmowers. And I kind of cobbled together what I learned from all of it. I can try to take a picture of the diagram that I used to wire it after I'm done. But right now I'm going to shut the... stop talking so much and show you a little bit what I done, and I have to shut the video off. So here's my 8 horsepower Simplicity Snowaway 1980s vintage, and here you can see the wire coming off. This is the positive wire, and there's a sheathing on it to protect it from the engine, and I used water resistant connectors. I have to heat this one up yet. I just connected it. And then I also attached my ground to one of the engine bolts right here. Then the positive runs to a 5 amp fuse. I always like to fuse things like this just in case something goes wrong. These little babies right here. And I'll shoot a different video with those that will show you a little bit more about. There's 2 of them in line. and basically they clean up the electricity, from what I understand, going to your light. And then up above right here, you can see I've got two more of those water resistant connectors heading up to my light. Now basically what I'm going to do is wrap all this stuff up. So that's what the wiring for the LED light looks like. I will take some pictures and include a diagram of how that goes. Let's talk about how we're going to wire the LED light onto our snowblower. And first of all, I wanted to show you some of the tools that are going to be handy for you to have when you do this project. This is a device that I use when I solder. So when I solder things together and I have more than one wire going into the same place, which is happens in this particular project, I use this with the alligator clamps to hang on to the extra wires that I'm trying to get into one place. It makes for a much neater job and really helps you out quite a bit. You can get these on Amazon. You can either screw this to the workbench or there's a clamp that comes with it. I clamp mine to the front of my workbench, so I've got the shop light above me and I'm working with the soldering iron right here in the front. I can sit down on a shop stool. So very, very handy thing to have, and these arms are infinitely adjustable. Whatever you need to do with them, you can do with them. I've got fully insulated blade crimp-on parts, and these have a male and a female in the package. You will need the female for this particular job. The males would be utterly useless for you, so you will need some of these, at least 4 of them, but I would have some extras in case you make a mistake. And that is another thing that you will need. You will need some butt slice connectors. These are considered waterproof. I would say water resistant in my opinion, but what do I know? And these, you crimp them in place when you join 2 wires without solder, and then you heat them up with a heat gun and they shrink around the wire and give you a very good seal against the elements. You will need electrical tape. I would recommend a UL rated electrical tape. My favorite is 3M. I really like their tape. It seems to last a lot longer than some of the cheaper brands. And you're going to do quite a bit of taping with this when you do your final assembly with this. Another thing that you'll need is a crimper, because you have to crimp some of these connections together. This is my favorite crimper right here. It has a really nice feel to it, and it's made by Channel Lock. Okay, so those are basically the tools that are required for this job. These are the parts that are required for this job to be able to do this correctly. Now, you're going to need, obviously, an LED headlight. And I talked a little bit about, I showed you the box in the first part of the video. This is a rectifier, bridge rectifier. And a bridge rectifier, from my understanding, and I'm not an electrician, but from what I gleaned in shop class and read online, takes the AC current that is coming out of the machine and converts it over to DC current. And then the DC current is what you need to power your LED light. So I want to point out to you that on this bridge rectifier, there is one blade that is a different direction. I suggest that when you are assembling this, you do all the assembly in your shop, and then you take it out to your snowblower for final attachment. Then all you have to do is attach the wires to the snowblower and attach the wires to the light. Get some zip ties and some electrical tape and things like that, and then you can secure the application for what your headlight, so that it's as weatherproof and sweep proof when you clean snow off your machine and things like that. So again, we've got a bridge rectifier, and they come 2 to a pack. There's the information on the side of that, and I'm going to flip it over so you can get the information off the back as well. It's made by a company called Bojack. You can get this from Amazon, and I believe these are around $8 for 2, I want to say. These are capacitors. Capacitors, you will need 2 of these, and they come in packs of 4. Take both of them out of the package, and I'll hold the package up so that you can get the numbers off of the package. Again, I ordered these from Amazon. They came in, I believe, a package of 4, and they were about $5, something like that. Now, if you take a look at these capacitors, they have a negative side marked to them, and that's the shorter wire. The positive side is not marked, but it is the longer wire. Now, that is going to be important, what side is positive and what side is negative for you. If you take a look at the other capacitor, it's the same thing. I'm going to hold this up so that you can see the numbers on the side of the capacitor. And there are also some numbers on the other side as well. You can zoom in, and if you need more information on these, that should help you. My understanding is that a capacitor takes electricity that is generated by an engine or anything else, and it meters how fast the electricity goes through it and gets to the item on the other side, which in our case is the LED. Think of this as a water tower for a town. The water flows into the water tower and fills the tower up, but only as people open their taps does water flow out of this side as it's needed. The same thing happens with electricity. That is the best explanation that I've ever heard with how capacitors work. All right, so it stores all that water, it stores all that electricity, and by doing that and metering out to the LED light, you get rid of that blinking that you get sometimes that you see when people hook LED lights up to things, that flashing, that pulsing sensation. So again, these are capacitors. You will need 2 of them. All right, let's take all this stuff and move it out of the way so that it's not crunching up our workspace. And don't worry, when we get to the point where we're talking, after I run through where these connections initially go, I've got this all laid out on paper. I'm going to show you a schematic of what it looks like. And again, this, you saw this is the assembly that's going on my son-in-law snowblower, and the LED headlight is over here, and we have the wires that are going to the snowblower on this side. We have the wires that are going to the LED light on this side. Okay? So, very simple. Most of what I'm going to show you is in this area here. Now, the wire that comes off the side of the snowblower, underneath the area, at least on mine, where the electric start motor is, that's the area below the fuel tank. So you should probably have the fuel tank empty while you're doing this. I don't think you need to pull the spark plug wire or anything like that, because you're not sticking your hands in any place where if the machine starts you're going to get injured. Just make sure the machine's turned off. Take the keys out of it so it can't start, and you should be safe. But again, don't use any flame or any heat source around gasoline. You have to be careful. The wire that comes off the bottom, off the top of the coil, is tucked kind of under the fuel tank, between the electric start and the fuel tank. Now, if you pull that wire back and you pull it out to the side, you're going to be able to work on it so that it's just past that fuel tank. All right, don't work underneath it where the fuel lines are underneath the tank when you're if you're going to use shrink connectors on it. Okay, all right. So here's our red, and this is butt spliced onto the wire that comes off of the snowblower to power the light. If you don't have that wire on your snowblower, this will not work. If you have a wire that comes off of your snowblower for electric grips, it's my understanding that that will also work to power an LED light. I haven't tried it, I don't know, but that's what I've read and that's what I've been told. Now, in line, I have a 5-amp fuse. And that fuse is simply protection for your engine, for your wiring, things like that. So that if all of a sudden something comes in contact with water or anything like that, a frame, and something gets shorted out, that fuse goes and nothing gets ruined. It's protected by the fuse. Okay, so I would highly recommend that. This has got a little cap on it so that it's kind of waterproof or water resistant, and then it snaps on, it pushes on in the top. This is the negative coming off of the snowblower. And again, I've got these labeled, so when I get out to the snowblower, I know what goes where, and I don't make mistakes when I'm connecting this. So this black wire, I'm going to connect to any ground on the snowblower. When I did my project, as you saw, I used the bolt that holds the engine in place. There's always some exposed thread that's sticking up on there. I added another nut to that, the same pitch and size, and I placed the wire in a U-shaped connector underneath that, and then I snugged up with a small crescent wrench that nut on the top to squeeze the negative, so I had a good contact. So again, we've got the positive and the negative coming from the snowblower. Now we have our bridge rectifier. Our bridge rectifier is where the power is going to get changed over so that it's usable for the LED light. And I told you to remember where the only blade was that was in a different direction than the other three. When you look at the rectifier diode, you will see what I'm talking about. And to do this correctly, it would be my advice to you to set this up so that odd-shaped direction blade is on the bottom left-hand side, because all the diagrams I'm going to show you and how I've got this laid out for you right now to show you how this works operates the same way, and that's going to be the easiest way to keep you from getting messed up. All right, so the positive that comes off of the snowblower attaches to the lower right blade on the bridge rectifier. The negative that comes off of the snowblower attaches to the top left blade on the bridge rectifier, okay, right here, okay? All right, now we have two wires that are coming from the snowblower. We also have two wires that are going to the headlight in the direction of the headlight assembly off the bridge rectifier. The negative that goes to the headlight is located right here on the top right terminal of the bridge rectifier, and that leads towards the light. The red or positive wire that goes to the headlight is the odd directional blade on the bridge rectifier, and that is in the lower left hand position. This has a hole in the center if you want to use that to put a screw through it and hold it in place, or zip tie it to something on your machine. You can certainly do that. Okay, so there's our bridge rectifier, and that's how that works. All right, now we're headed towards the headlight. We have a positive and a negative that are going to power our headlight. And if you look at this assembly right here, these are the two devices that I had all taped up with black electrical tape on mine. These are the two capacitors. Now the negative that comes from the rectifier that works as a ground is going to be connected to and soldered to two of these capacitors. And both of the negatives are going to connect to that negative and the negative wire that leads to the headlight. So all the negatives get soldered on to the negative side of the two capacitors. And again, this is going to clean up the electricity as it's going through here so that your light doesn't pulsate or flash on you. All right, now we have the positive that's coming from the bridge rectifier, and we have the positive that's flowing to the headlight. Those are both soldered to the positive side of both of the capacitors right here. And then going out of the capacitors, we have a negative and a positive, and that is going to lead directly to our headlight. Now these, you can bend these down so that they lay flat against the capacitors. I would suggest taping them up with electrical tape before you do that, and then creating as good a seal as you can on any of the exposed wire with short, small pieces of electrical tape, and then taping the whole assembly up like I did on the one that I showed you on my machine. All right, now we're leaving the capacitors. We're heading towards the headlight. Now, if you want to put a switch in, now is your opportunity to put a switch in. You can drill into your dash and you can add a switch, and that would go on the positive side of the wire coming from the capacitors. All right, that's the live wire. You would put this to the switch, and then you would have another positive wire coming from this going to the positive wire on the LED headlight, and crimp that in. Okay, you're going to take, and now on mine I didn't put a switch in. Mine runs continuously all the time when the machine is on. It helps make me more visible when I have to go out on the road, turn my machine around, or out, you know, in the end of my driveway, make turns there. I want the light on all the time, so I don't switch them on and off. If you have two lights, this might be real bright. You know, you might have a dimmer light that came on the machine and you want to add the LEDs so you have more light in front of it. You can do that, and then you can add switches to turn off and on the machines. But generally speaking, you're going to have to drill into the dash of your machine to mount those switches, unless you can figure out some way of doing it. This is the negative that comes off of the capacitor, and this goes to the negative side of the headlight and is connected and crimped in here. Once you have this done, use your heat gun to seal these up, and then you can add a little bit of electrical tape to it to make this even more waterproof. That's all there is to this, okay? A lot of prep work, a lot of soldering, a lot of figuring out what goes where, a lot of assembling the right parts, and then once you get them, it's a matter of hooking 2 wires up to the snowblower and 2 wires up to the headlight, and that's it. That's all there is. And then you got all this wonderful light. Wait till you see the picture of my machine at night. It's impressive. I'm going to shut the camera off right now, and then I'm going to reposition things with the camera looking down so that I can show you the small schematic diagrams that I've made that is going to make this crystal clear for you if you don't quite get it, or you need something in your hand because you're kind of a visual learner. Okay? Okay. Now I've kind of done this so that, again, you've got an opportunity to look and have something in your hand when you work on this, work on your workbench, or whatever the case might be. This is always helpful for me, so I hope it helps you out a little bit too. All right, so here's a very simple drawing of the bridge rectifier, okay? And it labels everything. Now, on the side of the bridge rectifier, on some of them, it'll say AC and plus by 2 of the terminals. And the one that has the plus actually is that one that goes to the headlight. Not all bridge rectifiers have that delineation, that marking, but they all have that odd blade, okay? So, again, here's the bridge rectifier, and here's what gets connected. The positive wire from the snowblower attaches right here to the lower right-hand side. The negative wire to the light attaches, actually goes to the capacitor and goes to the light, attaches to the upper right-hand corner right here. The ground wire from the snowblower attaches right here to the upper left-hand blade on the bridge rectifier. And the lower left-hand is the power out, the positive out that goes to the capacitor and the headlight, and that is in the lower left-hand side. That is that odd directioned blade right there, okay? All right, I'll just pull away from that so you can see that for a second. You want to zoom in or take a screenshot of it or something like that. All right, now this is going to help you out as well. I made a color drawing here, and I'm not an electrician, obviously. That goes without saying, but this should help with your wiring even more if you still have questions. Okay, on here I put the information for the rectifier diode, bridge rectifier, and also the capacitors right up here. So that is written on this. Capacitors were $8.99. The bridge rectifier was $5.99 for 2 of them. Okay, all right. So let's start off at the snowblower. Snowblower, we have a positive wire coming off of it. Remember, if you don't have the wire, you can't do this. If you don't have anything coming off, any power coming off the snowblower other than a spark plug, this will not work on your unit. Okay, so this is red for positive. We're going to run this wire, splice this wire, and we're going to put it to the lower right terminal that is marked AC on some of the bridge rectifiers. And we're going to connect that with a blade side, okay? Connector. Now, we have the negative that's grounded on the snowblower or on the frame somehow, and you're going to run that to the upper left-hand blade on the bridge rectifier, okay? Very simple. There's your 2 connections on the snowblower. Now we're going to go towards the headlight. We go off the upper right-hand corner of the bridge rectifier, and notice I have both of these capacitors so that the negative is coming off this direction towards the negative wire going to the light. So we're going to run this wire to the first capacitor, and we're going to solder that, and then we're going to either put a piece of black wire between these two and solder it, or we're going to solder them together like I did in my assembly. And so we're leaving the upper right hand corner of the rectifier, and we're going up, and we're going to the negative and the negative, and we're soldering that together, and we're attaching that to the negative side of the headlight, the LED light. Now the lower left hand odd blade direction, we're going to connect our red wire to that, and that red wire is going to go up, and it is going to connect to the positive side of both of these capacitors. You're going to solder that in. Now, I don't remember a lot from my high school electrical drawings, but I know when you put a dot where two wires cross, at least that's the way it used to be. That means that those wires are soldered or joined together somehow there, and that's why I have that here. If you look, this wire crosses over and you don't see that, but these two do. So again, you're having the positive come off here, and it's attaching on the positive and the positive side of the two capacitors, and then it's coming up to the positive side of the light, and it's getting attached there. That's for continuous run. If you want to add a switch, then you would run that wire up to your switch, put it on one side of the switch, bring it back from the other side of the switch, and that would go into the headlight. And then when the switch was thrown on and off, it would allow you to take the headlight into the on and off position as you are running it. So very simple. Okay, hopefully this answers any questions you might have. This is how I did it. This is how it worked for me. I've got two other snow blowers I'm working on setting this up for right now. I'll try to take some snapshots when those get done. They're both Simplicity machines, but they're way newer than the old gal that I got up at the cabin. So again, this is Bruce with Blowing Snow for Fun, and I hope this will help you. Now let's take a look at a video of how the LED light looks and works on the Simplicity 8-horse Snow King engine that I've got up at my cabin. Okay, this is Bruce with Blowing Snow for Fun, and I'm outside with my 8-horsepower Simplicity 1980s vintage Snowway, and I'm going to start it up, and we're going to try out that new LED light that I put on in the daylight. So let's see. Usually starts on the first pull. Choke it a little bit here because it's kind of cool out tonight. Make sure it triggers up. Really impressive, awesome amount of light gets fired out from the LEDs on that light that I've added, and I've just got my Milwaukee neck light on, and that's what basically I'm filming by when we started and when we finished, but it's dwarfed by the light that this night light LED puts out on the snowblower. And you can try it for yourself if you've got an older machine and you know you're tired of paying for batteries or recharging things and having substandard lighting. But you know, man, oh man, this it starts up and it throws just tons of light, and it's a very white light that really lights things up. And I can imagine in the snow this winter when I'm working in the driveway at 10 o'clock at night when I get up here. It's going to be awesome to fire up this machine and be able to use that headlight on there to fill up that the driveway with light while I'm working. So again, it's Bruce with Blowing Snow for Fun, and thanks for joining me for a night out here in the great north woods of Wisconsin. And we'll put the old Simplicity to bed until fall, and then we'll start it up again, make sure she runs, but she's running good so far. Thanks for joining me. Hit the like button if you can, and if you subscribe to the channel, if you're interested in videos like this, that's great. I'd love to have you come aboard. Bye.